Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Janice Frederick, and I am the Director of Clinical Services for Bright and Bright Horizons. And I wanted to just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about serving in the backup or substitute role for our students that are supported on public school campuses. Um, so, as we all know, things are continuing to change and return to what we can anticipate will be our new normal. And one of those big changes is that students are being served once again on public school campuses. And so, for us, this is a really exciting time. It's been now over a year that schools across California have been closed, and the majority of our students that we were supporting on public school campuses have been supported in the context of a distance education model. And so, again, I have said this in other videos, but I am just so unbelievably grateful to all of you that have been with us during this unprecedented time where we've introduced many new strategies and tools so that our students could continue to access their educational programs when being served in a distance model. But now it's time finally for them to return back to school and to do so safely. And this is really wonderful because our students, for the most part, really do need to be served on campuses. It's where they can more fully access their educational supports and their overall educational program. So, with this shift back to campus, what that also means is we have this increased need once again for what we call backup support or substitutes. And that the need for backup support for one of our students can occur for a variety of reasons. But mostly we have to send in backup support when one of our own A Bright team members is out. They're either out due to an unplanned emergency, like they're feeling sick, for example, or they have a family situation that needs to be taken care of, or they have planned time off or PTO. And so we are part of a really tight knit and collaborative team here at A Bright. That is something we pride ourselves on, is our ability to support and kind of lift up one another, and to be able to do that for the learners and families that we serve as well. And a part of that at times is functioning in a backup position. I want to just state really clearly that we understand that, like, moving into like a backup position for a day, sometimes a few days, depending on the duration of time that the Bright team member is out, is it can be challenging, right? Because you're walking into a situation where you have less familiarity with the student. Oftentimes, you haven't been provided with individualized training or support that's really comprehensive in nature related to that student. And so we understand that this is challenging. And yet, at the same time, what I am asking from each of you right now, and from us as well as more senior team members, as the leadership clinical team here at A Bright, is that we do our very best to walk into these new situations knowing that by taking them on, we are helping students, we're helping families, and we're helping our fellow team members who, like I said, oftentimes are only absent from their scheduled workday because they have an emergency situation. And this is one thing that we do for one another. We are required by law to, we signed up to support our students, and we're legally like bound to make sure that they have that support on campus each day. And it's not the legal binding that keeps us there. We also want to make sure that the students that we serve have our support. It's critical to them being successful on campus. Without strong backup support, um, they likely are not going to have the most successful day that they could have. And for our students, they are facing a lot right now. For our students, like I said, the majority of them have not been on campus in over a year. These are new times for them. They're meeting new peers, so their fellow students, new administrators. Sometimes they've had a transition from elementary school to middle school, or middle school to high school, that's occurred over the course of the pandemic. They're meeting their teachers for the first times. They are in new classrooms, so new spaces. All of these things are so new for them. And so I acknowledge that it is not easy to be a backup, but I am so confident in all of you in terms of the training that you've been provided and the support that you are provided in an ongoing capacity in terms of, additional training and just check-ins with our senior team. I know that you can take on the backup role. And it's critical for our students that they have someone there with them to support them during I cannot stress enough how it's more important than ever that they have that. And so I wanted to make a little video to just talk about some of the specifics to get it out to everyone quickly. So we understand the backup role can be a more challenging role because you haven't been provided with that comprehensive training related to that specific student that you may be supporting that day. For that reason, you are provided with an increase in your hourly rate to address some of those additional challenges that you may be facing. So anytime you work as a backup support for a student, you are going to receive $2 of additional compensation per hour of your workday with that student. That's just something we've put in place. We want to make sure that you feel well compensated for the additional challenges that come along with supporting a student that you're less familiar with. So that is in place, and you will see that on your paycheck. That's something that we take care of. So each hour that you work in a backup capacity, you receive $2 above what your typical hourly wage is. Okay, so now that that piece is out of the way, the next thing is when you're notified, and we try to notify you in advance that you'll be serving a backup role. So if we know a team member, for example, has planned PTO, then you'll see in your web ABA when your schedule comes out on Friday that you're planned to be a backup. And then also the BCBA, so the clinical manager that supervises that student's case or program, will have hopefully already reached out to you with additional information. Now, the thing about backups is oftentimes we don't know that a team member is going to be out. Like, we don't know that a team member is going to wake up feeling ill and they're not able to support the student for the day. And so a lot of our backup decisions, or scheduling decisions, I should say, are made the morning of the day that the student requires the support. So early in the morning, beginning at 7 a.m., our leadership team in Santa Cruz starts taking on how to make certain that backups are in place for our students who are going to be missing a team member. Again, likely because of an unplanned illness or absence of one of our Bright team members. And so the scheduling coordinator will reach out to you with information about the student, the school the student's attending, what changes will be reflected in your web ABA, the student's initials, and then also information related to the student's clinical manager. The student's clinical manager will then reach out to you with any specific information that you may have to have related to that student. The other thing is you will be provided with information. You'll be provided, right? You have access to that student's documents, their behavior intervention protocol, reinforcement protocol. Any of those things that you may need are already uploaded to Catalyst. So you will have access to that information. And then once you get to the school site, you can use your prep time to review those documents. Again, the student's clinical manager will also be reaching out. They may offer a check-in that you can do early on in the morning or during your prep, or they'll send any specifics that they feel like you may need to know that may not be reflected in the student's Catalyst account. But I want to assure you that the information that you need will be in Catalyst. You've all been trained how to review a behavior intervention protocol. You've been trained how to review session structure notes or student tip sheets. All of those docs are in Catalyst. Are you going to feel as fluent and familiar as you would if you had received a pullout training, that was an hour and a half long, related to the student's specific programming needs? No, probably not. And that is just one of the difficulties that's posed with serving in the backup role. But you have access to a lot of information. That's one of the amazing things about having Catalyst for each of our learners is information is right at your fingertips. And just understand that our expectation is that you do your very best to support the student under circumstances that are less than ideal, meaning you're a novel person to the student. So there's some rapport building that has to take place and other things. And we totally understand that. Please just do your very best to review documents, to implement right now. It's really critical. Implement safety measures that are in place at the site. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And to make sure that you're collecting data. The data are critical because as a backup, we'll get important information from you about what may have been more challenging just by virtue of looking at the data that you collected for the student in the presence of a backup, and then we can plan better. Okay, so safety measures that are in place at the site. Each site has some things that there's some variability across sites and across districts. And so I'm not going to talk about specifics, but what we are trying to do, and I also relate a lot of this information in a video that I did about the return to campuses for our students. And so check that out if you haven't yet. But what we do know is we're staying 3 feet away from the student unless they're at risk, you're at risk, or another team member is at risk, another student or another individual or caretaker at the campus. So 3 feet distance. So you're supporting at a distance. That means, you're avoiding things like physical prompting and gestural prompting that may involve direct contact with the student's materials. You're going to do a check-in when you get to the campus. That's standard practice during COVID times and even pre-pandemic. And the site will, if there's specific information about the site related to like safety checks and things like that, the office personnel will be sure to review that with you. You're going to meet the student in their classroom. That information will be provided to you by our scheduling coordinator. You'll meet the student after you've checked in at the office. You'll meet the student in their classroom. And what's interesting right now is all of our elementary school students across the county, this is so amazing, are returning to campus 5 days a week, beginning next week. Our secondary students, so those are our middle school and high school students, when they need backup support, sometimes it's going to be at a distance. So sometimes it'll be via telepractice. And sometimes it's going to be on campus because those students are only going to be receiving instruction on campus under a hybrid model. So they're on campus 2 or 3 days each week, and in most cases, just 2 days a week. For those students, when you're in their classroom, it's going to be kind of interesting because 50% of the students are going to be participating online in a distance model, and then 50% of the students, including the one if you're serving on campus, including the one you're supporting, will be being supported in person. And so I just wanted to mention that because that's a little bit different. You're going to be like here, the teacher may be even working or delivering instruction from their own laptop or computer in the classroom. So they'll be seated at a distance from even the students that they're in person with. One of the other things, and so Jessica Pizzica is one of the BCBAs that we work really closely with and have for many, many years as part of our collaborative program with Santa Cruz City School District. And most of the students that we serve on public school campuses are Santa Cruz City students. And so she supervises a number of those students and Same as the Bright clinical managers will reach out in advance to give you some information about the student. Jessica will certainly do the same. She has asked if you're supporting one of her students, if you want to just go ahead, and all of you can do this because you may serve in a backup or sub role at some point in time. Go ahead and add the Google Drive app to your iPad or your Kindle. It's free. Um, and then I'll include her information for login. While all of her students have a ton of information as Catalyst as well, she's also developed some additional materials that are they're most easily accessed through the Google Drive account. I think really what I wanted to get across in this video in a big way is I know that this time has been so hard. Believe me, I know. It's really required us pivoting in so many different ways so that the learners and families, the teams we support, can be well supported by us. And I know that it certainly hasn't been easy for all of us. And so I want to make sure that I make it clear how grateful and appreciative we are for the work that you have done. And also and it's hard for me to continue to request this, but to request that we all, to the best of our ability, are flexible with the changes that are forthcoming. If there are changes in your schedule, please know that we are doing our best to seek information on the front end from the school districts that we work with. And I think the districts and certainly our team, we're doing our best, our very best. We've devoted so much time and energy to trying to get the information to our team in the most complete version possible and as early as possible. But there are unforeseen circumstances. Some of those unforeseen circumstances that require us to have a backup are things like I said, a team member's out ill, they've had a family emergency, they've had a death in the family, they've experienced some really challenging circumstances, and that's why they're absent for the day, and that is why we have to provide a backup. Also, the information from the districts, although I truly believe I come from a place that they are doing their best, it is oftentimes delayed. And schedules are changing. And schedules are changing because there's really been a concerted effort to try to get students back on campus, which we think is amazing and we support. But it's required a lot of shifting and changes to schedules. For example, just 2 weeks ago, we were planning on students just being on campus for a couple days a week and, operating from the place based on what had been communicated to us. That would likely be the case for the remainder of the school year through the first week in June. But then that suddenly shifted again. So there have been and now some of our students are going to be on campus 5 days. So that causes like a jumble and really, to be completely honest, a lot of chaos for us scheduling wise. We are doing our best. Our scheduling coordinator, our assistant clinical director, myself, we want you to be well supported. We want you to have the information in advance. If something's confusing or concerning to you, I can't emphasize enough, please reach out to us so that we can get you the support. That's critical to us. But I do think it's just going to be a challenging time. We're doing everything we can to try to break down barriers so that students can get access to services and our team can be safe and comfortable and well informed about students that they are going to be supporting. But there's just some information that we're waiting for. And I know that this is going to get much better over time. But it's really novel still. It's new for us, and we are really doing our best. I believe everyone is doing their best to show up from one another or for one another. And that's really what I am asking from our team right now. We're going to need backups. I can already see in this first week or so of returning to campus, it's really busy. We need backups. And so once again, I thank you for taking that on. We recognize it's a challenge. Hopefully some of that increased compensation is helpful and helps you recognize that we do realize that it can be difficult. I want to just share that I try to always find the positive piece of things. It can also be really amazing to support a student that you're not familiar with, because it creates a new experience for you. It adds to your skill set. It allows you to observe something new and different. By working with a new student, and then just even being exposed to like a group of new students that are also part of that student's classroom. Some of the most powerful experiences that I've had in my current role, and even way back when I served many other roles, including the one-to-one role, have been by those by virtue of those experiences that I didn't plan for. And I observed things that have like stayed with me now even 20 years later. And so there can be really powerful things too if you can move past kind of, I understand the unease of doing something different. So thank you all for taking this challenge on. I anticipate that a lot of us are going to be kind of in that backup role to some capacity, maybe even for a half a day or a day at some point between now and June. And I do thank you for that. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out directly to myself. I'm going to say our leadership team here in Santa Cruz, which is myself, Marlena Jacobson, and then also our scheduling coordinator, Myra, so that we can take on any challenges or barriers that you see in terms of working as a backup. Okay, thanks so much, team. Have a great day.